guys, welcome to Not Hardly Broken. We're here today. We thought we wanted to record ourselves today, just sharing about the recent police brutality. Not that police brutality hasn't already been a trending topic and a very hard experience, but these recent ones have just really just been kind of back to back and kind of feeling like a boxer up against the ropes, just keep getting jabbed and all of that. And so we just been feeling all kinds of ways. We don't have all the solutions for how to go about doing much or any of this. Last night, we sat with most of the kids, and as you can see, we have 4 boys and a father. So there's 5 male black men in our household that we have to give thought to, trying to figure out how to navigate this course that society and our culture and our world is leading us and guiding us toward. It's very disheartening. It is very frustrating. There's so many emotions that are evoked as a result of watching this injustice. I myself personally, I still haven't seen the video. I have not been able to watch the video because I just didn't want to see what had happened. I was hearing about it, I've been reading about it, and for me, that's enough to even get me riled up and frustrated and angry. So I've been angry just by hearing and by watching or watching the stories or reading about it. So I haven't even seen it, and I probably am not going to click on any of the videos that are circulating, because I personally, when I visually see things like that, it really gets into my spirit, and I'm not trying to over spiritualize anything, but I'm a seer and a prophet. And so when I see things like that, gross brutality and inhumane acts, I have a hard time, and I didn't want to not be able to sleep. And I know many of you are having a hard time sleeping at night, especially families with men in them. I mean, thinking about your cousins, your nephews, all kinds of black men that are in association with. I mean, it really messes your sleep pattern up when you're going to bed, because you're trying to figure out what's your next day going to look like. And so we just wanted to come on and record today, just to kind of, chronicle our thoughts and put our thoughts out there and put our feelings out there, and just have a safe space to share that, because I think, as a therapist, that it's necessary when we're dealing with things to talk. And that's something that I personally, just having the family together, I want to encourage you guys that find a safe place to put this. Have a safe place to express this. Of course, prayer is your conversation with God. That is definitely first and foremost. But then God gives us relationships here on the earth that we can, be able to just be ourselves with, and just express ourselves in the fullness and the height, width, and gamut of our emotions in anger. And we know that person can hold it without, recording us or, just doing us any kind of injustice just by sharing that. So I certainly encourage you guys to do that as well. And I know Terrence, and that I did notice that he wasn't talking about anything, but I didn't know this was weighing so heavily on his mind. I just knew I was trying to avoid watching the video and all of that. So
the whole situation has been pretty heavy on my mind, and still trying to process the thoughts and the circumstances involving everything. Not only the people that were killed and directly affected by it, but also their families and friends and their communities. And not only does this speak to the Black community, but it also speaks to the world at large, because injustice and inhumane activity, it's so devastating to the core of a person, and it makes you feel like there's no help and there's no way out. And so that's part of what I was feeling this week, and why I was pretty silent, trying to process everything. And I wanted to say something on any of these social media platforms, but I also wanted to say something that was different and on a different, that wasn't what everyone else was saying. Of course, I'm outraged, I'm incensed, of what's going on, but I didn't want to continue to push that agenda. I wanted to say something that would kind of bring a different perspective and a different outlook, and I couldn't come up with anything. I was asking God to give me something to say, that would kind of, button things up. But this is something that cannot be buttoned up like that. This is an ongoing conversation. This is something that needs to be on the forefront of the world's agenda, especially this country. The inequality, that is going on, and that we see the blatant murders of Black men and women. And so, this whole week I was just quiet and silent, trying to make sense of this. And I still have not, made sense of it. But it just hurt my heart, because I not only am a Black man, a Black husband, a Black father, an uncle, a brother, but I'm also, I'm raising 4 Black sons and 2 Black daughters. And how do I relate to them, and how do I tell them about what's going on so that they can understand, what I feel? And I'll give you an example. My daughter went out the other day, and she wanted to stop by a friend's house, and I was fine with that. But then I'm thinking in my mind, she's going to stop by a friend's house and come right back home. But when she didn't, I got concerned, and I, kind of took it there to a place, because, and again, we didn't, talk about this prior to, but I was just overly concerned that, if she was taking so long to get home. And so I was texting her, and we were texting back and forth, like, where are you? What's going on? And, thank God she was safe. And, but she didn't realize the angst that I was going through because of the circumstances and situations going on this week. And so, she came home safely, and, I had to have a discussion with her that, what's going on is not just affecting Black men, but it's affecting Black women as well. And it doesn't, they don't care about gender. It is right now, it seems to be targeted by the color of your skin. And so, which means that my whole family is a target. And so, as a provider and a protector of my family, I need to do my part to know and understand where everyone is, because there's a lot of moving parts. But when I don't know, when I feel like I'm in the dark on things, then I get, concerned, and rightfully so. But I think, it's important as fathers and as men to kind of galvanize the troops. And what I mean by that is to start with your own family and to have discussions about what's going on and the feelings that are associated with what's going on, and to talk it out. Because, this week I was bottling those feelings inside and didn't have an outlet. At least I think, I thought that I didn't have an outlet. And I was talking to God about it, and I was praying, and I just wasn't getting anything that would bring me to myself. And it was Friday morning, and I was, went out early in the morning to pick up a couple of things, and I was talking to God. I said, God, you're gonna have to do something. You gotta say something to me. I need to hear from you about what's going on and what I'm feeling. I cannot remain in this place. I felt hopeless. Fear was creeping in about the future for myself, for my children, for my family, for other families. What am I going to do? What is this going to look like? And so there was a lot of confusion there. And as soon as I got home, my phone rang, and it was one of my partners, my very good friend, that wanted to shout me out and just give me a call. And I was just able to spill like verbal diarrhea to him, everything that was going on in my head. And he just listened, and he offered his opinions and his feelings toward the matter. And just that back and forth dialogue was therapy for me, to get it off my chest and to get it off my heart and mind. And it made me feel so much better. The situation is still the situation, but it made me feel individually so much better because it lifted the fear, off of my heart. It lifted the over worriedness, if that's a word, or the concern, off of that. And we started talking about, strategies and ways that we can kind of circumvent what's going on. Unfortunately, there's no way to kind of police ourselves when we're out, in the world and out in the streets and out in the communities, because if something was to go down and things were to escalate, then it is what it is. But through that conversation, the fear of what it is went away. And I have a resolve that no matter what happens, I know that my hand is in the Lord's hand and my heart is with God. And as for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord, because whatever plans and strategies that you have that are in place, and I saw, Killer Mike talking about this last night on the news after the rioting in Atlanta. He was saying that we need to plan, to plot, to strategize, to organize, and to mobilize, which is good. We need to do that as a people moving forward, to come up with these ideas, and people who come up as a think tank to kind of cause some change, not only in the city, but in the world at large. Yeah. And all that is great. But what about you men that are at home worrying about your families and don't have that release, or someone to talk to that will be able to hold the secrets of your heart in a safe place, in a secure place, and you don't feel like a failure, or you don't feel like you don't have the answers for your family? And so we need that as men, to be able to talk about these things and to talk about these issues and to talk about our feelings in a safe place. Yeah, I could have talked to my wife about it, but I needed to talk to a man that was in the same position that I am, and that would understand the deepness of being a man, a black man in America. And so for my friend to give me a call and for us to talk, it was therapeutic for me. It lifted my spirit to the fact that, I can sit down and talk to my sons and say, this world doesn't necessarily like you. And that's okay. Because everybody is not going to like you and not going to like us. But if we carry ourselves and exemplify ourselves as upstanding men, walking circumspectly before God and before man, then that is what we are, supposed to do. That is part of our purpose as men, and to continue to keep our head up and continue to be respectful, but also to be able to say what we need to say in a manner where we can be heard and not mumble, not, look down, but to look, a man in their eye and let them know that, we are men too, and we have value. And so my job as a father is to continue to allow the narrative in my home, to allow my sons and my daughters to know that we are a strong people. We are cut from a different cloth. And the fact that we love God and we follow the precepts of God, that we are covered in his blood and that we are safe. And that no matter what happens, we are in the arms of the Lord. And so that's very important and very comforting for me as a father to know, because there's no telling what's going to happen, what can happen because of such a volatile situation that we're in. But the fact that we know that God loves us and he is covering us, and he sees that, and he knows that he hates injustice, that he wants justice to happen. I know by faith that God is moving now. Not that he's going to move, but he is moving now and setting things up and setting things in place and in order. But we as people, apostolic prophetic people, need to see and understand the times and recognize the times that, God is moving and allowing these things to happen so that we can see and we can wake up, not to, strategize and how to war against the enemy or war against white people or what have you, but to wake up and to love him even more, to trust him even more, and to put our faith in God even more. And then the byproduct of us putting faith in God is to plot and to plan and to strategize and organize and mobilize as a people. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and so like we said last night, we had just a candid conversation with the majority of our children. And so I just wanted to also be able to provide them the space to either reiterate what you shared yesterday, or just to share candidly, how this whole scenario makes you feel. What kind of feelings does it conjure up for you, considering the circumstances?
I wasn't actually going to share this with you guys, but this morning, I guess I would say I made the mistake of going on social media and just, seeing and hearing all everybody's different opinions and things like that. And I was doing a pretty good job of just staying away from it all week, ever since I heard about, what was going on. I broke down and I was crying, and I will say it definitely, the tears came from placing myself in, I guess in this whole situation and thinking it could have been, my dad or my brothers. And I was grateful for the conversation that we had last night about, just standing firm in faith and just trusting God and not allowing this to create fear in us. Because I will say when I was crying, I was a little fearful, but I was also crying because I knew that I didn't really have a reason to fear. So I will say, with all that's going on, with all the different opinions and thoughts that are, kind of being shot at us through social media and just what we hear on the news and stuff, just to really stay in prayer and just know who you are in God. And the only way you can do that is to stay in prayer, really. It is kind of scary, but it's nothing that, it's nothing that God can't handle.
Does it make you afraid at all?
Because it could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It could have been someone in our family, somebody that we know. It would hit hard, but it's hard as it does now because it's a black male. And you want to walk outside and not be fearful or anything. that can happen to you and you come home safe, but you can't really. Anything can happen. You just gotta trust in God that He's keeping you and you love Him.
What about you? Does it make you afraid?
Yeah, for the same reason, like they said, they shared. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about, like you said, it could be your family or your loved ones, does it make you want to figure out something to do, or do you feel helpless, or what are those kinds of thoughts that you might have with that?
You feel helpless like this for what? It's not fair.
Helpless and makes you want to do something, but it just feels like whatever you try to do, there's always something like set up against it. So it's like even if you try to figure something out about it, will it really work or will it be effective? So that's where the helpless part comes in.
But I know the church is talking about that we need to, pray, and for some people that's not enough of what we need to do right now. That we need to fight back because it's a helpless or hopeless situation. But the reason why I feel that it's so important that we do pray and speak out against it, because we're dealing with an enemy that we don't necessarily see all the time visibly. We know that it's there, but we just don't know where it is all the time. And I'm talking about systemic racism. And so whether it's a cop, putting his foot on your neck, shout out to George Floyd, or whether it's a cop bursting into somebody's home and killing them in their home, shout out to Breonna Taylor, or whether it's white men as civilians playing cops, shout out to Ahmaud Arbery, who was just jogging in Georgia. You just don't know where it's going to come from, and you don't know what time it's going to hit. And so the only thing that can defeat an invisible enemy is God. And if we don't understand that God is in control and trust Him, that He knows how to protect us, how to preserve us, and how to provide for us, then we're going to be lost and going to feel hopeless and going to feel helpless. But I feel empowered knowing that that God has my back and I'm covered in His blood and I'm protected and my family is protected. And even if something were to happen, I know that I know where we're going. So my part and my mission as a father is to make sure that each of my children and every member of my family knows and understand that they still have power against an invisible enemy, and that power is God.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of you all sharing that. And I know Terrence, a couple days ago, being shut up and unable to really express and verbalize how he felt, to being able to verbalize it to a close friend, and be able to just share it all and just let it come out and let it rip. I'm just highlighting that path because he sought God about it and asked God to help him process and think about it. Now, I don't have all the solutions. We don't have all the solutions for how to go about doing much or any of this. But we're speaking of what personally, because everybody's feeling the brunt and the weight and of all of this, and that helpless feeling can lead you down depression's road. It can lead you down, just such horrible feelings that you can't even manage. Anxiety, where your heart is just racing and your mind is going. You cannot shut it off. When you go to sleep, you can't sleep because your mind is racing. And so we're speaking from that perspective in regards to wanting to just be a voice, be a beacon of light. That his process was, he was caught up and stuck in it, and then he asked God for help. God sent someone who would be able to help him be able to at least express it. And now his statement is that he feels empowered. So that is a matter of a few days, you know, that you were feeling hopeless and now you're feeling empowered. And I still have not watched the video and I do not plan to. However, the feelings that I was previously feeling, I don't feel that low place at this point either, because as of last night, we, the family, talked and we had a safe space to express ourselves. So that's what we want you guys to come away with. First of all, our experience, but also how important it is for you to release, have a safe place to release, because you can only contain so much. And when all of that venom begins to circulate in and around your heart, it can create unhealthy conditions for your body, mind, and soul and spirit. So we just want to encourage you with what we've shared today, that we are too processing it. We are trying to figure this out. We're trying to navigate what life looks like with a family of 5 male black men and 3 young black women coming up. And so we just wanted to share that. Hopefully you will feel encouraged or just get something from our expression on today. We just felt like the time was of the essence to be able to put something out in the atmosphere that would hopefully encourage you or give you some guidance or some direction or just some relatability. And of course, as always, if anything that we shared was substantial for you, leave us a comment. Always definitely like and share and subscribe. And of course, we are not hardly broken, and we'll see you guys next time.